Oh, looks like we got everybody. Oh, wait. Oh, there's Walter. Okay.
I had to get two screens like Matt does because making Zoom this big so I can see the new minutes on this side, it's really difficult.
You should get two screens. It's a game.
I need two screens.
Even I have two screens.
Well, if I make it big, I can see it, but I can't see you.
I have three screens going.
Three? Oh, geez.
Because I can.
I'm not techie enough. I had a hard enough time trying to hook up a new printer on Saturday. Literally 3 hours. I was not a happy person.
You called Matt.
Wireless my behind. It wasn't. I had to go back and buy another wire.
Oh, geez.
Horrible.
I bought a wireless favors from Steve at school.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get your special Hoosies, and it has to be just the right one. And
yeah. Crazy.
Dad.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening. Well, we got another minute or so, so we'll wait. Even though we've got everybody, we'll wait another minute to officially start. Hey, while we're waiting, the one thing I will have to comment on is I'm wondering if Cheryl is making it too easy for Pam by putting all those notes and stuff on the budget.
Make her work for it.
Yeah, really. I mean, come on.
There's no such thing as too easy when you're talking about a budget.
Well, okay. Well, it's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. As chair of the Northwood Select Board, due to coronavirus, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, we're authorized to meet electronically, which is what we're doing. So there is no physical location. However, in accordance with the emergency order, we are providing access for people to access via telephone. And there are also two other possibilities for accessing the meeting. The one is via Zoom, and the second is via YouTube. The information on how to do this was provided. It's on the town website. If you go to the link for the meeting, there's two links there. The one is the meeting agenda. That has the link to Zoom. The other link is a link directly to the Northwood, page or whatever you want to call it, that has the YouTube broadcasting, whatever you call it. Anyway, those are the two links that you can find there. If there's anybody that's having problem with access, please call 603-340-5711 or email Paul at pallard@town.northwood.nh.us. If at any point we lose our ability to have this meeting, the meeting will automatically adjourn. And since this is a meeting where people may be only listening in, we are going to do everything by roll call vote. We'll start with a roll call for attendance. Matt.
Present.
Beth.
Here.
Tim.
Present.
Pam.
Present.
And I'm Hal Kreider. Okay, at this point, I'd like everybody to rise and pledge to the nearest flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everybody. At this point, I'm going to open it up for Citizens Forum. Would anybody like to speak? If so, please wave your hand or indicate. Okay, we got somebody that wants to speak. We got two people that want to speak. Wow. Okay. Well, Daniel, we're going to let you go first. You're unmuted. So you got 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here representing the VFW Post 7217 to discuss Memorial Day Parade, which is coming up in 2 months. I checked all the executive orders or emergency actions, whatever you call them, the governor put in last year. They're all still in place, so I don't think we'll actually be able to hold the parade this year again. However, we would like to submit a permit to have the parade just in case the governor does away with the restrictions.
Okay. Walter, do we need a board vote to do that?
I think if you're going to, excuse me, if you're going to approve a parade permit, subject to the governor's orders being removed, then yes, that would require a vote.
Okay, how about you add that to your list and at the bottom of your list, and we'll take care of that. So Daniel, you just want to make sure that you have something in place in case we are able to hold the parade.
That is correct.
Okay.
And just like last year, if the parade doesn't happen, we will have a ceremony like we did last year.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it'd be nice to do something if we could. We'll have to see how it plays out.
And who should I send the permit request to?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is something where you could just call Walter directly and get it right on the agenda, Daniel, in the future. So I just say coordinate with him directly, and we'll handle the vote later. But if anything comes up, just please contact Walter.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, great. Anything else you'd like to add?
That's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commander.
And I think, Ginger, you want to speak. Ginger, you're muted. There.
No, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. Just a couple of quick things. I was looking online under the finance department for the financial statements for this year. And as had been discussed and mutually agreed upon, I don't recall now if it was a verbal consent to a process or procedure or if it was written, but last fall you had indicated that financial statements would be posted online within 2 to 3 business days after the first of the month, so that if anyone wanted to check them, they could. The last one that was posted was actually, it was posted on January 14th of 2021. It was the end of year financial statement that was printed on January 4th. That was the one that the budget committee also received, and we were informed that not all of December's invoices or charges or whatever had been applied as yet. So I was looking to see what the end of year was in addition to January, February, and March. So I would appreciate it if that could be done in the next day or so that we can take a look at them.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Ginger, if you don't mind, the quarterly report is on the agenda, and we'll bring up your point during that discussion, which includes getting the rest of them posted and also confirming with Cheryl what schedule she's going to use to post them in the future.
Okay.
You comfortable with that?
We'll go with it.
Okay.
The only other comment I had when I was looking at the agenda this evening, typically the consent agenda is posted as well, and it wasn't there. So if memory serves me, it's been a few meetings since I chimed in and watched you guys.
Yes, we missed you.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you missed what I might say or not say. In any event, in the past, I know as you were reading off the consent agenda, you would list the PO numbers and the amounts and what they were for. And I would just ask, since it isn't in print, first of all, along with that, whomever is reciting would perhaps go a little slower, so anyone who would like to write them down can have time to do so.
Sure. Okay, we can address that also when we come to the consent agenda. So there's really two parts to that, Ginger. One is the posting and the second part is the detail.
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
For the moment, that will work.
Okay. Well, there's public comment at the end, so if when we get to those items, we don't address them, you can speak up at the end.
And you know me, I just very well may.
You won't be bashful, I'm sure.
Not at all. Bashful is not my middle name. Thank
Okay,
you.
great, thank you. Anybody else want to chime in under Citizens Forum? And I'll just say, for the record, I guess I'd say it. Normally what we would do under Citizens Forum is we would just ask people to state their case and then we'd, move on. In both these cases, these were more transactional issues, and I felt that it was appropriate to deal with them. But I'm going to also recommend that in the future, both Daniel and Ginger, please feel free to send us a note in advance and we can try to get it on the agenda if as an appointment, just so we're sure we cover what you want to cover. And Tim, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, a gentleman down the road doesn't have a computer and he didn't know how to go about, but he called me on Sunday afternoon. I guess they had some lacrosse stuff on the Bull Lake field over here, around the corner from me by the Bull Lake Rock on the Bull Lake Road. And they were parking on both sides of the road, all the way down to basically like Richie Cummins' house, all the way up to the Bull Lake Rock, on both sides, aimed both ways. And it was, if you could barely get a pickup truck through. Never mind. Luckily there was no fire or emergency, but I don't know if the gate's closed. Why is the gate closed? People can't park in there. At least if 20, 30 cars could park in there. It was a big cluster because cars were parking, going down the hill, but up the hill. So I don't know who we could address that, but he just wanted to make that a point for the meeting.
Okay, so we have to think about how we want to handle this as a board, because the person that you're talking about isn't actually speaking. I'm going to suggest, and I'd like to hear other folks, other board members chime in. Daniel, I saw you, but at this point, we're not, well, actually, I guess we could go back, but we're on this particular point. How do the board members want to handle situations like this? Do you want the board member like Tim to bring it to Walter as a potential item for his list? Or do you want him to deal with it directly with Walter? What's the board's preference? Or Walter, what's your preference?
I think if it's an immediate issue, then it should go directly to the police department. If it's something that requires, discussions with the school or whatever, then certainly just let me know and I'll initiate those discussions with both the PD and the school.
I don't know what group it was. It was like some older kids, like teenage boy group age. So I don't know if that had anything to do with us or that just somebody came in and used the field, but
It's likely Black Bear Lacrosse.
50,
I'll say I've
60.
been there pretty much every night we've been over there, and I haven't seen any cars parked on the opposite side.
Well, that was Sunday.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry, Sunday morning. I'm sorry, because I basically went out to breakfast, came back. So Sunday morning, early,
Okay, so this is after the
how we want
fact.
to handle this.
Yeah, I'm going to cut off the discussion. It's after the fact. In the future, you need to call the police. If it's something where we need to make arrangements, then we need to call Walter. Beth, did you want to say something to finalize this, or?
No, I just wanted to make sure that the people that are doing it do have a key to the gate. Do we make sure they have a key?
All that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, should be through Walter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we pay him for.
Well, we put a gate up a few years ago because it got really muddy. We didn't want to ruin the field, so we want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And that's why it's still closed. It's
Yeah.
still too soft to park on.
Yeah.
Okay, so Daniel, I saw your hand up, but I just want to say it's a public meeting, but it's not a meeting with the public. So, when it's citizens forum, you're welcome to speak, but unless there's an appointment that you have otherwise with us, it's not really up to you folks, or not. We're not really supposed to have you folks speak at that point because it wouldn't be fair to the other folks. So I'm sorry about that. Well, okay. I guess we disappointed him.
Oh,
So now we're going to move on to approval of the minutes from March 23rd. Does anybody have any discussion relative, or does anybody have any edits that they want to make preemptively on this? I personally thought they were pretty clear. Okay, I'm not hearing anybody in
Make
terms
a
of,
motion to approve the March 23rd minutes is
thank you.
printed, read, or
Second.
however you okay.
And we have a second. Okay, now any further discussion on this? Hearing none, then we're going to do a roll call vote on approving the minutes for March 23rd. Matt, how do you vote?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Pam?
yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, so we've approved the minutes for March 23rd. So now
Good
we're,
job again, Paul. Good job.
yeah, it was good. So now we're moving on to the consent agenda.
Question?
So, yeah, so let's just hold on. So from the citizens forum input, and again, we don't necessarily always try to follow up on the citizens input at each meeting, but in this case, it's a transactional thing. So let's see if we can get it right. So Walter, I guess the request was to post it along with the agenda. I know we got our copies Monday, I think. So maybe that can get posted along with the agenda on the website at the same time.
Easy enough.
Okay. Okay, so that addresses that. And then I guess now when we get to the reading of the consent agenda, if you would go down through there, if there's POs and different things, I don't recollect that there were, but why don't you go down the list and enunciate? And Ginger, I'm going to watch your face, and if you indicate slow down or speed up, we'll try to adjust.
So the format that we've used since I arrived basically just has the batch numbers for the AP and the payroll and doesn't have the detail listed. So if that's a different practice that you want to adopt, then I'll obviously need to know that. But for this week, for April 13th, the accounts payable manifest, which is dated March 31, 2020, is batch number 17490 for $150,389.08. The accounts payable manifest dated April 7, 2021, batch number 17504, was for $6,439. We also had an accounts payable manifest dated April 14, 2021, which was batch number 17522. And that amount was $532,595.10. The payroll manifest dated April 7, 2021, batch number 17495, was for $74,776.30.
Okay,
So
so Walter, can we take a pause there? First off, Norm, if you could just help out a little bit, please. Sometimes you also say, like on the one that was $500-some thousand, what the big items were on there. So I know the one was the school for $400-some thousand. But do you or Cheryl recollect for the public what the big items were on the $150,000 manifest in March? Do you have that handy by any chance?
I don't have it right in front of me, but I know we had the payment to the Concord fire alarm dispatch for.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. The dispatch.
$43,000 was
Yeah.
included in that payment. And I didn't review that right before the meeting, so I can't tell you what other big items are on there.
Yeah, no, that was a couple weeks ago. So, and then to Ginger's point, there are no additional POs this time around that we as a board are approving. These are all ongoing items. So Ginger, to that point, if there were additional PO items, they would be listed. And as you may recollect also, if the board members don't feel comfortable just approving them as is off the consent agenda, and we have in the past pulled them off and discussed them separately. But this week there are none, so it's just the manifests themselves. Okay, so then if you would please, Walter, let's move on to the next set within the consent agenda.
So the next grouping is the abatement recommendations. This includes the assessor's recommendation for either approval or denial. For the Anwig and Dugway property, for the irrevocable trust, for Wayne and Pauline Karen, for Fairpoint, for Gregory George, for Donna LaFond, for Susan Knoll, for Anita Stokes, and for Richard Wolf. Those are our abatements for 2020. We also have requests.
So hold on a second, Walter. Let's be real clear with folks, because this is the first time we're doing it. So on these,
I
and
got like 6 or 8 other names you never read off on my list.
well, there's a bunch more coming.
Okay.
There's a bunch more coming, and this is why I wanted to say it, Tim. Walter grouped these according to how he recommends we handle them. So in this group, he's recommending that we take the recommendation of the assessor as it's shown on his report. And, you know, we got, this was probably a record. We got what, 217 pages or 18 pages of packet this week. So we're trying to avoid having to, you know, go through all individual pages because we'll be here forever. So what he did was he grouped these, and he's saying these we should consider just approving based on what the assessor said.
Okay, knowing that, can you say that again? I wish we know that information before we read the list off. So
Yeah,
I can mark my list.
So Tim,
Clarity?
we got another email that had, because the list we got in the packet wasn't separated, it was just all the names. Our email list has it separated.
When did that come out?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
So it has
Oh,
that list and then another list and then another, so.
Exactly,
you.
exactly. Yeah, because Walter and I only talked about this on Monday as to how we wanted to handle it, so my apologies.
Corman,
And-
hello. Me? Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry, sorry, Pam, you were off on the corner. Go
I'm
ahead.
over here. I've had a question for the longest time. I want to caution you on your wording, whether we choose to go with the assessor's recommendation. You want to be careful about saying agree or accept, something like that. That it would be good if you word it, because some of these may be approval or denial. So you don't want to issue a blanket statement that could be taken as all for, all good, all bad.
Yes, okay, so to your point, Pam, what we are trying to do here is, and let's just.
I know what we're trying to do. I'm making sure you word it correctly.
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is on this first group, if the assessor, for example, recommended a change in the assessment, we're going to accept that. If the assessor said, I think the assessment is correct. I'm not recommending any change. We're going to accept that. So whatever the assessor has put in his report as to what he recommends we do with this particular assessment request, we are going to follow his recommendation. So by voting in the affirmative, that's what we're doing. Is everybody clear on that? So, for example, if you wanted to, oh, go ahead, Pam.
I will also say that our packets are mixed. So you will find the first section listed mixed in with the second section listed. So this will be a little bit confusing.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it might take a little time if you want to check one.
correct. Like for Tim finding and reconciling with the new list versus his packet.
Yeah. I mean, if people are uncomfortable with this approach, we can just start going down each one. What would people prefer?
It was
I think-
268 pages.
Yeah.
I'm not sure now's the time to be reviewing them. If people haven't reviewed them so that they feel comfortable voting, then we should table it.
No, I'm good. I got all the notes here and I'm printing it off now. So, but no, I got all my notes on the master sheet. So we're good. I'm good.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the way you said it, Walter, was the way I was thinking about it. You know, when I went down through there, I mentally said, okay, yeah, I agree, I agree. So, you know, that's the basis for sorting them. And Pam, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't have a problem with this first section going along with the assessor's recommendation. The second portion will take us more time because it's mixed.
Well, the second portion, I believe Walter is recommending we handle in non-public. And I would not like to comment on that any further than to say that because of the nature of them, they need to be handled in non-public.
Absolutely, and because of that, and the quantity and the sorting through, I would say that it may take longer than expected this evening. So it could be conceivable we don't finish them all this evening if it runs too late.
Of the ones in non-public, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm hearing though, and Walter, help me on the procedure, should we have somebody specifically ask to take these off the consent agenda, or do we leave them on the consent agenda, meaning that we are going to handle them in non-public as the consent agenda says?
You're correct. Leave them on. and
Leave them
then-
on, okay, and then it's noted that we handle them in non-public.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then do you want to move on to the property tax exemptions?
Yes. Again, treating them as we intend to treat the abatements, which would be concurring with the assessor's recommendation. We have basically all veterans tax credits, one for Roger Blad, one for Wayne and Paul and Karen, one for Deborah and Timothy Currier, one for John Daigle and Kay Brazier,
Yeah,
one for Harry Graves. I'm reading off my computer.
yeah.
So those are all veterans tax credits. And then we also have a warrant for the gravel tax for Stephen Anthony, and also a request for appointment of Grace Livergood for the local river management advisory committee, which really is just a signature for the board.
Right, well, she's on the Conservation Commission, and she also just went to vernal pool training today, so she's a good candidate.
Yep.
Okay, so is everybody comfortable with how we're handling the consent agenda? And if so, now that I think we've talked through it and understand it, are there any of the items that we've listed that we prefer to take off the consent agenda and discuss as an individual item? Okay, hearing.
Just to clarify, what, to clarify one more time for everyone, is that we are confirming that we are going to discuss one section in non-public.
Yes, that's really all, for that group, that's all we're confirming, is that they're moving to non-public. And there's reasons obviously for that. Pam?
Does that mean after non-public, for our next meeting, they would appear on the consent agenda, or this
Maybe
is
not.
just-
Maybe not. I mean, we're going into non-public and that may be sealed.
Okay. All right, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, we just want to be real careful about how we handle those. Okay, so if everybody's okay with the process, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read by Walter?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Any discussion? Hearing none. Beth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And Hal is also yes. Well, I appreciate your indulgence in that approach, because as Beth said, 268 pages, we potentially could have been here for a long time. Our assessor has been doing really good work, and I think it is appropriate to take his recommendations. Okay, now we're going to move on to the first quarter financial report. So first off, I'd like to thank Cheryl for the work she did on that. Really appreciate not just all the numbers and details, but you know, that you've included comments and some general suggestions. And Pam, I see you're waving. Do you want to say something up front?
I'm trying to raise my hand. Thank you. Also, for the first quarter expenditure report, I've been working with Cheryl a little bit, and I want to thank her, but she has also sent those out to Linda Smith on April 7th. So for Ginger's benefit, those reports, Linda does have them along with the audit and the so first quarter expenditures and the 2020 expenditures, which includes December that Ginger had asked about. So Linda does have those, and I believe she's printing them to send to the budget committee.
Okay, great. Well,
thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl. So Cheryl, while we've got you online, let's go back to one of the citizen comments. And what Ginger talked about was we had set up a schedule that, and I'll have to tell you, I don't remember exactly what the parameters of the schedule were. I'd have to go back and look at it, but it was something like, you know, on the first Tuesday after the first of the month, you're going to print out the expenditure report. It'll be as of that date. And yes, we understand that there could still be some expenditures in that month, blah, 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 blah. But we had a fixed schedule. So that was based on the people that were working previously. What would you recommend be that schedule in terms of when we print off the end of the report for the end of the month?
Well, I think that since we run our AP runs for Tuesdays and payroll is Thursdays, I think that if I ran the first Thursday after the end of the month, that would capture everything that we'd done up until then. And I think that would certainly work. And I have to apologize. As soon as Ginger said that, I had like one of these V8 moments. I was like, of course, it hasn't even been on my radar. I'm sorry, but it will be corrected, believe me. But I think the first Thursday after the close of the month would definitely work.
How do the other board members feel about that timing? I'm seeing some general nods. Walter, how do you feel about it in terms of any disruptions to the office or anything like that, using that schedule?
I defer to the finance director on that.
Okay. And then Cheryl, I guess the other point was about posting. What have you done in the past? Do you want to have a separate, maybe you work it out with Walter, how you post it. I don't know whether you want to have something separate, with you on the web page, or whether you want to post it with our meetings. Can we leave it that you work that out with Walter?
Certainly. Yep.
And then once you've worked it out, I just request that you send Ginger a note so she knows what it's going to be.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think, we tried to cover the logistical things on the report. At this point, Cheryl, would you please just give us the, I'm going to say the 10,000-foot view. And again, I'll just comment that once this report's online, you're going to see that she has a lot of other comments on the right-hand side where she's added notes and explanations as to why spending is up or down in a particular category. So I'm going to ask that we keep the questions to a minimum, but let her report at the higher level as to how she thinks we're doing.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I will start with couple of highlights or lowlights from 10,000 feet, whatever you want to call them. The revenue for the first quarter is up 5.78% over the first quarter last year. And that is mostly due to increases in motor vehicle registrations and increase in land use fees, because the land use office is very busy and we have been getting fees coming in there higher than we certainly had last year. So revenue being up a little bit is, of course, very good. You look at the expenditures, the bottom line of the expenditure report looks a little scary at first because it shows expenses are up almost $100,000. But there are several large payments that were timing issues that this year they were paid in March and last year they were paid in April. So come the end of April, maybe into May, it's sort of going to wash itself out. One of those payments being one that Walter mentioned, the Concord area mutual aid payment, $46,000. Last year it was paid in May and we paid it in March this year. So some of the lines are going to look a little odd and kind of take you back a bit, but I did, like Hal had mentioned, I did put notes on the lines where it's a little extreme and just to explain what had happened or why or whatever. The other area that you may see when you look at the report is the health insurance lines. Last year they were allocated to the individual departments, and in 2021 they're being allocated to the personnel administration lines. So it's no matter which, if you're looking at an individual department line or the personnel administration, it's going to look weird because it's just being recorded in a different location. I guess the good news we have on the health insurance rates came in a little bit lower than what had been budgeted for 2021. So that'll save a little bit of money. But on the flip side of that, July 1, the New Hampshire retirement contribution rates from the town are going up, and that's mandatory and we have no say in that matter. So that's going to be a little bit of a hit. And vehicle maintenance has been an issue so far this year. A lot of unexpected things came up to the tune of around $10,000 that we weren't planning on. So, and the other item that I kind of was looking at was that in 2020, there were several positions that were either new or were increased to include benefits. Couple redoing some positions in like the town clerk, tax collector office, and some reorganization. And the benefits that go along with that, the cost of the benefits is going to affect of course the entire year for this year, where last year it was just in parts. So that's something else we have to look at, because since we were running with a default budget, it wasn't calculated into the default budget. So that's some areas we kind of have to watch out for. I think that's the view from 10,000 feet. If anybody has questions, go ahead and let me know.
Questions, anybody? Okay, well, if not,
Can I say that,
Pam, I didn't hear you. Please.
yeah, you have to pause 2 seconds between. Yeah, I just want to say that the notes category to the far right on the budget or on the expenditure report is just outstanding. And it's a real nice, kind of like little Easter eggs on the line, an explanation. I think that's terrific and that's quality.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we're making the select board rep to the budget committee job way too easy for you, Pam. Yeah, this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I'll also just say, Cheryl, you pressed all my buttons with the charts and everything on the revenue. That was good. I like that. That
Okay.
was, yeah, I love the chart. Okay, is there anything else related to the budget that people want to talk about, or the report?
I just want to say I'll be glad that next quarter we'll actually have a budget, so we'll be able to look at the percent remaining. Because that's the first line I go to. Yeah. And not having that it makes it so much harder.
Well, actually, you know, I guess that does warrant some discussion there, Matt. Just to say that Walter has explicitly said to the staff, you know, we're going to be obviously very conservative and very careful about spending up until we know, and then we'll see where we stand with, you know, what gets approved. But right now, Walter's keeping things pretty tight, and rightfully so. So we'll have to see how we progress on that and see what passes, and then make adjustments accordingly. Okay, if there's nothing else on the financial reports, I'm going to ask Walter to move on to his report. I know he's got several items where we're going to have to take some action, so we'll just go through them all and take them one at a time. Oops, Beth, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So are we done with Cheryl then, or?
Oh, thank you.
She's
We're trying to keep
Yeah,
things
we
tight, so.
I believe so. Let's just double check. I don't think there's anything else on the agenda for her. Yeah. Okay, so that worked out good. Thank you, Cheryl. And thank
Thanks,
you,
Cheryl.
Beth.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
Hi, Cheryl.
Okay, so Walter, you want to move on to your report, please?
Yes, I certainly do. So I'll give you an update on staffing. We still have a couple of open positions that we're actively looking to fill. One is for the building inspector, health and code enforcement officer. We actually interviewed an individual today that may potentially be a candidate for consideration. We'll know a little more as we continue to evaluate the interview that we had. And we also had a very similar experience last week with two candidates for the recreation director's position. Board member Matt Pry and myself and Ashley Martin from the Recreation Commission interviewed a candidate, and we hope to have a discussion about that further in non-public. So hopefully we're on our way to filling those two positions. The next item has to do with the road weight limits. Chris, who's with us tonight, is recommending that you know, the roads are in good enough condition to lift the limits on the roads. He has lifted some already, and is recommending that you can authorize him lifting the rest on a road by road, case by case basis. So
Walter, do you need a specific motion from us on that?
if you could, that would be helpful, just to authorize him to you know, lift the road bans on town roads at his discretion.
So moved.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. And Tim, I think it's appropriate that you go first.
Yes. But just keep an eye on the shady spots on the dirt roads, but he knows that.
Okay. Pam?
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
and I'm yes also.
Very good, thank you. Next item is lagoon management. We spoke a meeting or two ago about some of the issues surrounding managing the hauling and dumping at the lagoon, and it was agreed that we would go back to the old practice, and that's been implemented, and that information's been sent out to the two primary haulers, and we provided a copy of that letter and the rules in your packet, and we've been pretty much accommodating everybody, no problems since for the last couple of weeks. So I believe we've resolved that. I think we'll be in good shape going forward.
Walter, a question on that for me, please? Did we let Lance know and Judy know that we did this, or give them?
Yeah, he's obviously, been in the loop and so
Okay.
forth. So he was definitely advised.
Okay, thank you.
Following up on the drainage issue at the corner of Bow Street and Route 4, Chris and I met out there last week and took a look at the situation, and I clearly feel that New Hampshire DOT has a significant amount of responsibility in resolving this problem, the way that the water sheds off of Route 4 into the property owner's yards at number 4 Bow Street. So I intend to reach out to the district engineer and speak with them and see if we can't get a meeting with them to talk about solutions, and hopefully they would understand and concur that they have some responsibility on correcting that issue. And I've conveyed that to the property owner based on a follow-up from their last letter of information and so forth.
Okay, it looks like Tim has a question on this.
Just for the public, that was on the lower Bow Street, the downhill side. Because I know we worked on the culvert, and Chris made a new header on the upper Bow Street end. So I don't. If people are talking about that, it's down by
By the river.
Yeah, down by the river, down towards the bank, not up towards the elementary schools, down towards the east end. So just for the public knowledge, because there was work done on both ends of that road this year.
Yeah, you're right.
Good.
So we'll continue to work on that, and again, try to come up with the best solutions and recommendations for the board as we move forward. As we get prepared to do some work on some of the buildings on the town parade, there are a number of trees that are either dead or dying that could potentially damage some of our repairs. So I've asked Chris, and him and I are going to try to put ribbons on the trees that we think need to go, and then get somebody in to give us a quote on what that's going to cost. I know we didn't budget for it, but I would hate to put a new roof on that garage and then have a dead tree land on it, which is kind of hanging in that direction. So I don't know if there's any sacredness to the trees, which is why I'm bringing it before the board in terms of a process, a method of having the trees removed or anything like that. But there's certainly several that, last winter we had one that came down and took down the power lines and the telephone line and the cable line. Fortunately, didn't disconnect them, but created a project for Chris to reattach them to the building and so forth. So I think we need to look at that very seriously and try to see if we can't do some thinning in order to, preserve the buildings and so forth.
Okay, so I think, Matt, you had your hand up first, and then we'll come to Tim.
Sure. So I just wanted to point out that after we get through town meeting and we see how that warrant article on the invasive terrestrial species article goes, if that passes, and I'm hopeful that it will, there'll be some money in there if the trees in question are ash trees. So if they're ash trees showing blonding from woodpeckers chasing the emerald ash borer, that's exactly what that fund is set up for. So that could help defray some of those costs. It's not a ton of money that we put in that warrant, I believe, but it's better than zero.
Yeah.
So we'd probably have to start by having the county forester come out and just identify which trees he or she would say are in fact suffering from emerald ash borer damage, but it'll help defray some of that.
Well, let's make sure we bring that up in our discussion at the deliberative session too.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then Tim, did you want to say something?
No, Matt covered it. I was just asking about the ash, make sure we had money in that. So if the trees are in that category, let's use that money for that. So no.
No, we'll talk it up. We'll talk it up.
He took my thunder.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
We may have to look real with our eyes closed when we identify the trees, because I think most of them are soft wicks. It's okay, that's a possibility. Anyway, I just wanted to give the board a heads up on that. So if you start to see some ribbons showing up on trees, I would just be really disappointed and embarrassed if we, repaired buildings and then had trees laying on them that could have been addressed ahead of time. So
It wouldn't be good.
So the next item we have was the former fire command vehicle, the bids that we had on that. If you recall, last meeting, we tabled that decision because of the bid that we had for providing light bars versus cash for the former car. And Chief was able to get us some bids so that we would clearly understand and confirm the value of the work and the equipment that the bidder was proposing. And there's also a memo in there from the chief kind of clarifying how that process went and the different options and how they, kind of differ slightly just because of the different installers and so forth. So I think we can pretty much confirm the value. It's certainly in excess of $4,000, for this particular piece of equipment. So it's really just now whether or not do we go ahead and accept that bid versus a $400 cash bid.
I think the cash bid was higher than that, wasn't it? $1,000 or something?
I'm sorry. Yeah, it was $1,000. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So do we want to have a little discussion on this first, or how do we want to proceed? Go ahead, Tim.
I guess my only question is, like, way back when he put in for the new pickup truck, he had $3,000 budgeted for this light bar. Now all of a sudden it didn't go through, and the fire deal, the guy who works for the fire department or light bar, I don't know, but now there's going to be more money because he needs more lights for the front of the truck and the back of the truck. So now we're going out to get more quotes. This all should have been done before that truck was even purchased. That's my only concern, that he allotted $3,000 for lights, and that's what he should have gotten. So maybe I'm confused on a few things.
I think if you recall, I explained at the last meeting that the $3,000 included using the light bar off the existing command car, which would not fit.
I understand that, but
it would
seeing
not,
how it.
I,
No, sorry, Mr. Johnson. No, sorry, please.
no, I just want to explain that it wouldn't fit this new vehicle, so therefore it would have to be drilled and bolted to the roof of a brand new vehicle. And so this obviously came up totally out of the blue. This wasn't something that we had solicited or whatever. This was a bid that this particular individual came up with. And I believe, in essence, we would end up not having to spend the $3,000, or have to spend a very small portion of the $3,000 that was originally estimated, and end up with a much better product, obviously that fits the vehicle and would be probably 5 times the quality and value of what we would have had off the old vehicle.
Go ahead, Tim.
I guess my only concern is that I used to have a Toyota pickup truck, and I had a rack in the back, and I bought a Chevy full size, and I knew before I even bought the Chevy that rack wasn't going to fit. We had a Ford Explorer, which is like 5 feet wide, and we're going to a big Dodge pickup truck, and nobody realized that light bar is not going to fit up until this point. That's poor judgment on some people's part, I feel.
No,
we had a light bar that's 52 inches long. Now we got a cab that's like 6 feet wide. It's common sense of we should have done the math before we invested in anything.
Well, I think if you listen to what I said, okay, the intent originally when that budget was put together is the chief's intent was to use the old light bar. Okay, so that decision was made and was appropriate, for the budget. And I think the chief's actually available if you'd like him to explain a little more clearer than perhaps I'm explaining.
Well, let me just weigh in here a little bit. From my perspective, we budgeted $3,000 on the truck to put an old light bar on it and basically bolt it through holes in the roof because that's what would fit. And I guess if I'm thinking about this after what Walter said, so we basically had $3,000 budgeted, and that would have gotten us an old light bar with holes in the roof. But nonetheless, we would have had a vehicle with lights as appropriate. And unless I'm missing something, it sounds like in this case, if we give up a $1,700 bid on the old vehicle, we can get a new light bar that doesn't have to put holes in the roof. And so I'm looking at it like our cost is $2,000 less than what we had budgeted, and we're getting a better product. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I feel pretty comfortable from that perspective. But Beth, go ahead.
So I didn't vote to purchase the truck, but you didn't vote to purchase a truck and put used lights on. You voted to purchase the truck, and it said $3,000 for lights. It said, I mean, it was itemized for the truck cap and the lights. And nowhere did it say used lights. I guess my concern is we put it out there for a bid, and have we ever taken bids and barters as bids? I've never, not that I know of, we've never bartered before.
Where is the old light bar right now? Do you still have that?
Oops, we have to wait for Walter to come back, I think.
So, I mean, so if we take $1,000 for it, he budgeted $3,000, so he has $3,000 for lights, pretty much. So if we get $1,000 for a vehicle that I was told was not safe to drive on the road, that's $4,000.
Say that again?
If we sell the vehicle to the person that bidded for it for $1,000, we have $3,000 budgeted for lights plus $1,000 that could be put towards lights. I just don't. We never asked anyone to barter before.
Well,
so the bid didn't go out like that. And I hope, did everyone receive the letter that Donna LaFawn, I think it was Donna LaFawn, sent to me, and I forwarded it all to you guys?
Okay, so I have to say, Beth, I think you're mixing up the two things in terms of when you add the 1,000 to the 3,000. The bid for the truck is separate from the budget for the lights. We budgeted 3,000, and I feel that's all we should spend.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so that's one thing on the side, $3,000 for lights. The second part of that is we have two bids for the used vehicle. One is $1,000 and one is lights for the new truck. And so I'm viewing it like we can buy lights for the new truck for the equivalent cash that was the bid. So that's the way I'm viewing it, because we aren't going to spend the other 3,000 if we do the new lights. But I guess, Walter, you and I have broached the subject. Go over what you think is the basis for being able to accept the new lights and the installation. I'm not saying that that's what we're going to do, but you talked to me about something about we just need to have clearly defined values or something, or can you explain that to the whole board, please?
I think it's basically it's a value that we're going to receive for the trade-in of the vehicle or for the sale of the vehicle. And whether it's in cash or in kind, we use in kind all the time, or some other trade in value, again, it's a value for what we're selling. So I'm not so sure that it's been done before here, but it certainly has been done before, in other places. And like I said, sometimes things are given in kind for consideration versus cash. So I don't see a problem with it if that's what the board decides to do.
So you're saying as long as we've documented that the in-kind is of at least a certain value for making our decision, then you don't see any issue with the way the bid was put out. Okay. Beth?
No,
But the bid was for a bid. It was for cash that would go back into the budget. It's not.
I don't.
We didn't. Nowhere did it say we could barter. So can I have the vehicle and I'll mow the grass for all summer long? Like that was never a choice for anyone else. It happened to come up as something we've never done before, and it's not how it was proposed.
Well, we have to vote on that. Do we want to? Oh, I'm sorry, Pam. I apologize.
Thank you. I think where I'm a little confused, and Beth helped me out here, when you mentioned the 3,000 that was budgeted for the lights, and then the guy that has the $1,000 bid. If we were to accept the $1,000 bid, yeah, we would get $1,000, but we would still have to expend up to $3,000 for a new light bar and all. So by having the guy do the installation of the new light bar for an in-kind payment, that essentially is, you're keeping the budgeted part, the 3,000, and you're getting in kind, which we assume to be worth at least 1,000, which is the other bid. So you stand to make or keep about $2,000 in the budget. That with the in kind, you'll actually be keeping perhaps 3,000, depending on an incidental or whatever. So it almost seems like the in kind payment makes more sense than take the 1,000 and spend the 3,000. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
Go ahead, Beth.
And I do understand that. I'm just saying it's not fair. That's not how we propose it to anybody else. Like I said, someone could say, I'll mow the grass. That would save us how many thousands of dollars? That's not how.
I think we should do it.
We're going to vote on it. I understand. And I'm going to vote no.
Well, let's just hear what everybody else has to say. So Pam, do you want to speak again?
Well, yeah, one more thing is that looking at, his history of towns is that in-kind payments were historically accurate and correct, that we often took, cattle or chicken or something in lieu of payment for tax or assessment, things of that matter. Many
let's
people
not get in that. Let's not get in that, because I can give you my dog for my taxes.
But they worked on the town roads to help defer their tax payments. And often each resident had to perform a duty within town, which would be in-kind payment towards taxes, say. So I think historically, most towns have accepted such payments.
Okay, so Walter, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Beth.
And I understand that, but we only this one person. That's not how we didn't word it like that. We didn't word it like money or barter for in-kind payment. So this person, very nice person, thank you. I appreciate that, but that's not how we put it, so.
Okay, so I think for Beth and I'm sorry, go ahead, Pam.
Thank you, Hal. I would say that if we put it out for bid, I don't think we specified dollars. I think we just simply opened it for bids. So.
Yeah, Walter, what's the exact wording in terms of what we said?
I believe it's cash or certified payment. So, if we certified the value of the exchange or the barter,
yeah,
I think that qualifies.
You should have a deal. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've discussed it enough. So I think let me just ponder this a second. I guess is the best thing would be to, I guess we could just vote on accepting that bid. And that in essence, by default, would then mean that we are accepting that as an alternate to cash. So by default, it's that. So Beth, go ahead.
Not that we're accepting that bid, we have to talk about the other bid as well. We have more than just one bid on the table.
We have two bids as far as I understand, right?
He went out and got other quotes for lights. Are we gonna accept them? We're just going with, those are just thrown out there just for comparison. So
Well,
it's either between Mr. Bilodeau or Miss LaFawn, and all the other quotes he got were just comparisons? Is that what Beth was saying? I'm just confused now.
Is Steve with us?
Well, hold on a second. So I'm just going to answer as best I can, and then Matt, I'll let you speak. So Tim, my understanding based on what Walter said was we got the three quotes so that we could verify that the bid to put new lights on and install it is equivalent to a certain amount of money.
Why are we verifying after the fact? Didn't we verify this while the whole bid process was going on?
Yes, but you didn't trust him. You and Beth asked for this.
Yes, I know, but way back when he bought the truck, he put $3,000 in.
Right.
It just seems like this was already in the works of having this guy come in and do it. If he was upfront and honest with the beginning of this, I don't think there'd be a problem here. But when you try to buy a light bar for $3,000 and now he's going to give us like $8,000 in like free work. I'm just confused of when you budgeted $3,000 and the price just keeps going up, and the cars should be scrapped and like crushed because it's the death trap. I'm just confused here.
Matt, go ahead.
We have another offer for $1,000, which is the next high bid. So if we agree that the in-kind bid is acceptable, he's saving $2,000 on the light installation overall. To me, that we need to, I'm going to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to accept the barter bid in exchange for the former command vehicle.
I will second.
Okay. Further discussion. I guess we discussed it all out. Okay. Seeing there's no further discussion, Pam, how do you vote?
May I speak?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was already looking down the tally votes. Go ahead, Pam. Sorry.
I'd just like to point out that Chief has written on his sheet about the bids and all. His last line is, in any case, the barter bid proposed by Mr. Bilodeau clearly gives the town the best value. And based upon the chief's recommendation, that he sees this as the best value. So I just wanted to insert that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, Pam, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
No,
Tim?
No.
And I'm a yes. Okay, so I guess we're going with the barter bid. Okay, Walter, you want to move on to your next item?
Yes. So I just wanted to advise the roofing bids, excuse me, the roofing RFP has been issued for the parade garage and the East End Fire Station, and those are due on April 21st. We did have a pre-bid meeting on April 6th, and so we expect that we'll be getting some bids on that project and have those ready for the next meeting to discuss.
Okay.
Just an update on the American Rescue Plan. The amount that the town will receive has been confirmed at $426,594.63. I'm not sure about the 63 cents, but that's what it said anyway. We're still waiting for the guidelines as far as how the how the funds can be used,
Yeah.
which those are being developed by the U.S. Treasury Department. And my understanding is that the funds will flow through the state and will likely be distributed over a 2-year period. So I believe the guidelines have to be issued somewhere about the middle of May in accordance with the bill that was approved. So we're not sure yet exactly what's going to be allowed. We do know that this is stimulus money, so that it's not something that we can simply squirrel away. It has to be, spent for, specific projects that are outlined in the guidance.
Okay, so Matt and then Tim, I believe.
So I just want to throw it out there that the last time around, in terms of recovery funds, we were told initially that we had to spend it on the municipal side of things. And then after we spent everything, the state came back and said, oh, you can share it with the school district if you wanted to. I'd love to see if we can get some better guidance on that this time around, because we're all playing on the same team and serving the exact same people. So if there's things that the school district need and we don't envision a true need for all $426,000 of that funds, I'd love to maybe have a meeting with the school board or the school administration on that, if it looks like we're going to be allowed to utilize some of those funds that way.
That's a good point, Matt. So I guess we have to wait for the guidance though, Walter. We don't really have any details at this point, do we?
No, again, there's a lot of things that are swirling around, but there's nothing definitive, nothing you can hang your hat on as of this moment. And I may be in error here, Matt, but I think the school is getting a separate allocation of funding.
That's what I thought too, but we'll see.
They wound
Maybe
up
they'll
getting
give us some of
separate
their money.
allocation this last time as well. It was just after the fact. So
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Let's see how it plays out. So Walter, I guess you'll stay on top of that.
Oh, absolutely. We've got another meeting coming up at the end of this week.
And then Tim, you want to comment?
Not on that, but just going back up to the roofing bids. I know he went over that real quick. That Chris and I actually, I called Chris the other day that it's a town well down across from the bank. It's that little A-frame shaped house in between my old house and like 2 up from Grant's garage. That's the town maintains that. And that's in deep repair of a roof or shingles. So I know the door was off the other day. So I called Chris and he went down and screwed the door back on because it's like 15, 20 feet deep. So, so if I know if any little contractor, you get a bid for the RFP for that, but you know what I'm talking about, Chris, the well, right? So if we get, I mean, it's only like each side is like 8 by 16. So it's not gonna be that much money, but we need to maintain that because it is a fire, not hazard, but help with fires because it is a big, dug well right there. So we could throw some shingles or metal roofing on that with these next bids.
Oh, so Tim, what you're saying is we get the bids in.
Add the well into the RFP for the shingles and the.
Are you saying add it in, or are you saying once we pick somebody, negotiate an additional cost?
Either that, or it's up between Walter and Chris if they want to put an RFP. I mean, it's probably 3 hours worth of work for these guys come in to do the other work. So I don't know, whoever gets the bid, throw them a biscuit. I don't, you know what I mean? So whatever they decide to do, but it needs some attention.
Okay, so what you're saying is one way or the other, address it either through the bid process, adding it, or negotiating with the winner of the current bid list.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that make sense to you, Walter?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you. So next item is, so we have some surplus equipment, which includes a 0-turn mower and a Club Cadet tractor mower that don't seem to have a use for, and it's taking up space in the Public Works garage. So Chris wanted to know if there was any appetite for putting those out for sale.
Beth, go ahead. Beth?
Yeah, I'd unmute.
Oh.
So before we used to hire someone to do to come and mow for us. It was like a part-time seasonal employee. I mean, and looking at what we're paying to have someone mow, would it be more reasonable to like hire someone for that? You know what I mean? Because I mean, what was the bid? Like 19,000 or
Was the lowest.
It was like 15 to 30,000. Yeah.
so I mean, just something to think about. Are we really ready to sell the equipment, or should we look and see if we're going to actually add another person to the highway department? Because that would be money that, you know, that what we're paying out to mow, if we kept the mower. I don't know, just a thought.
I know, I understand what you're saying. And it's sort of similar to the discussion we had in terms of hiring people. You know, we have our 6-ton plow and then we hire somebody to drive it for us. So here, okay, I understand what you're saying. So Matt and then Tim.
Another part-time position or whatever, it would be the plowing, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, not that we couldn't hire someone for $15,000. I'm just saying, use that as part of the salary, some of the plowing, some of the mowing, some other, you know, part-time work. I'm sure Chris has a pile of jobs to do, you know, so maybe sometimes an extra pair of hands.
Matt, you want to speak? Okay, I think it's good input. Beth, and then Matt, and then Tim.
So I'd like to see us wait till we get a rec director on, because one of the things that I recommend to rec departments all the time is we get outside user groups on the athletic fields, like Northwood baseball, softball, or the lacrosse organization, or whatever. And sometimes they want the fields mowed more than we are mowing per the mowing contract. And we can basically offer, like, you know, a tiered system. If they want to pay in X number of dollars, we can hire somebody to go mow that field an extra time, you know, or on the off weeks or whatever. So it's a nice way to make a little additional revenue. And if we have the equipment, that's the major cost center for that. We could pay somebody a fairly reasonable hourly wage and actually create revenue out of it. So again, I'd personally say, I'm sure it's in the way, but I'd like to see us hang on to it for a little bit.
And so Beth, just to confirm, he's sort of saying the same thing, but maybe not to the same extent. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't know if maybe he had plans of wanting to expand his, you know, his department next year or whatever. I mean, so just, I'm sorry it's in the way. I'm sorry.
Okay, and then Tim, you want to speak?
I know in the years past when Mr. Pease was road agent, or even, I don't know, when Pete was still here, whatever, they hired like a high school kid. He obviously didn't run the chainsaws and stuff, but I don't know if the lawnmower, you got to be 18 or 20. I don't know what the rules and regulations are for safety hazards, but give a high school kid a job. Tell him sit on that mower, and, you know, like Matt said, he could be on call for the other rec stuff or something like that. But if he has no room down at the town shed, I mean, up there by the town hall where we keep the building inspector's little white Ford pickup truck, and there's plenty of room in that garage to, you know, keep it locked up and throw stuff in that to get it out of Chris's way.
There's
I think we
nothing
ought
in the center school
hold
shed.
on. What's that, Matt?
The center school shed is empty as well in terms of storage.
Yeah. Okay, Pam wants to weigh in also.
Just very quickly, and perhaps Walter would have input on, for Primex, the insurance liability of having somebody use the town equipment, you know, in case of.
Will they be a town employee? We'd hire them through the rec department, like Matt said, or Chris's department, or like a high school kid on the payroll. So it'd be a town employee.
Yeah, I don't know if a high school kid can opt. Well, yeah, there's that question of power equipment.
Yeah.
But I just would wonder, just we cover ourselves on the insurance liability.
Yeah, we would, you know, I've hired seasonal help, you know, in a number of different positions and so forth. My understanding is that's how it used to be done, but it seemed to be challenging, I guess, from what Chris was telling me in terms of getting good, reliable help at that age level to keep up with it and so forth. So, but, you know, certainly, you know, a couple of great ideas here that we can hang on to it, and we'll put it somewhere else for now. And just didn't want it to go bad sitting there, you know. I think that's what happened to the.
No, there's a big red barn down the other end of town, plenty of room.
So let's give it a pause. I guess what the consensus is to give it a pause to think some more about it. Beth?
I would hope maybe, Chris, if you could find some time, like once in a while, like just to start it, to make sure it's, you know what I mean? Like we do the generator every single month, just, even though we don't use the generator, just in case. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I have been running it.
Thank you.
And Tim?
I know that Zero Turn back, I think Joe Gunter was the administrator when he was here, when my company I was working for did the ball fields up there, on Route 4 that we were probably one of the last ones to use that Zero Turn. After we got the grass going, we took our own company mower in, we come down, I think Charlie gave us that mower, we mowed the whole field, but so it's been a while, but it's pretty good mower. I mean, it's worth a good chunk of change too, so I mean,
It sounds like the consensus is to think about it some more as opposed to take action on it tonight.
Good, okay, we got it. So the next item we had, Chris has some issues in terms of our furry friends creating problems with some of our culverts and so forth. And so, as you probably know, Chris is licensed and to trap, but I wanted to make sure that the board was okay with him doing it. You know, again, just trying to be transparent. Obviously, at his typical rate and on his own personal time.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
as long as it's his vehicle, his equipment, his own part, like you said, his own time, so you'll understand that. Beaver students winter.
Okay, I'm not hearing any objections, Walter.
Okay, very good. Just wanted to get consensus on that. So moving on to the Route 107 Main Street bridge construction, we have received notice, and I believe you got a copy of that in your packets.
Right.
The bridge over the Narrows Brook is going to be reconstructed by New Hampshire DOT, starting just as soon as Governor and Council give approval for the expenditure. We have a copy of the plans in the office if anybody wants to stop in and take a look at them. But that will likely be starting in the near future, and obviously probably create some disruption in terms of traffic and that type of thing. But we'll be putting out notices and obviously making whatever adjustments that have to be made to notifying people about what's coming up and how long it's going to take, that type of thing.
Where is that bridge? Right?
Right north of the community center.
Okay, so they did a little bit of work there a couple years ago.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
in preparation. Yeah, and just to refresh everybody's memory, the board voted to have the traffic lights put there, meaning that at some points during the construction, there'll be only one lane, and the traffic one way will have to wait till traffic the other way goes through, and then it switches and stuff. And that was the recommendation of our chief police. And in retrospect, I guess it's kind of good, because one of the other options was to go up the side road where the culverts failed. So I guess we lucked out on that. Otherwise, we'd be fixing it. So Tim, did you want to ask another question on that?
Well, I just came up with Chris with the Beavers, because if I can just backtrack 2 seconds.
Yeah, go
Obviously,
ahead.
he is obviously on his time, his equipment. So he'll be submitting a bill to us for beaver problems to the town. I mean, I just want to make sure we're clear. I mean,
Like a subcontractor.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
You know, obviously, we're gonna pay him to take care of the problem, or how does, I don't know how it works, or
well, actually,
he gets paid, we get the beaver for, food kitchen or what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not near my house.
You're trying to
No,
negotiate for the
here.
pelt there, Tim.
No, I don't want the pelt, but I'm just saying, he's obviously gonna charge the town. We just wanna make sure that people know that.
Yes, definitely, yeah, because there's a fee to get them. So Matt, go ahead.
So the last time we did this, we just set up a blanket PO for trapping and removal. And then Chris basically went until that money ran out, and then came back and said, is the problem solved? If yes, we're good. If no, we talk about, renewing, putting more money into that PO. But like we get issues right now around blocked culverts and stuff all over this town. So those beavers are getting out of control.
Yeah, just another thing we need to stay on top of, otherwise it gets out of hand. Okay, everybody comfortable?
Actually, the beavers go into the witness protection program.
Okay,
Far away from Main Street.
I wanted to just give everybody a heads up about the town reports. We have the hardcovers reports in the at the town office, and those could be picked up Monday through Thursday between 9 and 1 when the office is open. We also have the digital copy on our town website, so people can view it there without having to carry the big book around. And I just wanted to extend thanks to Linda Smith once again for doing an awesome job. I think the report looks great, and
yes,
it came in a little under budget too.
an exceptional job in my mind.
So just want to give a heads up on that for people to realize. Under the Lamprey River Advisory.
Walter, excuse me. Did you purposely skip over the sale of tax deeded property?
No, actually, I missed it.
Okay. Why don't you
Can
go
I
with
interrupt
that?
for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Hal, or for everybody, somebody's cell phone keeps going off, and using my headset, it's driving me nuts. So
That's
I'm hearing
fine.
it.
Mine is off and in the bedroom.
Yeah, you had requested we all have our sound off, so whomever's phone is, they're getting notifications or whatever.
Wow,
they could
okay.
Chris, his hands up.
That would be
No.
appreciated. Now, Walter, if it's you, I understand.
Okay, good, thank you. Chris, is there did you want to speak on this sale of tax deeded property, or are we going back to the beavers
No,
again?
I was wondering if I can cut in on you. I totally forgot to, I forwarded you, Walter, an email earlier from today on the sale of the 1-ton. And I did it later on tonight. So I was wondering if we could possibly still move on the sale of the 1-ton tonight. I'm sorry to undermine you, Walter, on that.
No, it's okay. It's on the agenda. We just haven't got to it yet.
Oh, well, never mind. I'm going away.
Okay, okay.
It is on the agenda.
Okay, well then we'll move on. Well, do we want to move to that now so Chris can get offline, or do we want to just work our way through this, Walter?
Hang on just a second. I got to plug in, or I'm gonna be disconnected here.
Okay, I think that's, now we go.
Sure, we can do that now. We can take that out of order. Basically, we didn't receive any bids within our bid time frame for the 1-ton, so that's why you didn't receive any additional information on the bid. However, Chris did do a little bit of solicitation after the fact, and we do have a written proposal that came in today regarding the sale of the 1-ton. The amount is for, well, it's in 2 parts. Basically, it's from Bow Auto Parts, by the way, and it's $5,000 and potentially another $1,000 if the condition of the rear axle is in good shape.
Are you kidding me?
Why would I kid you?
$5,000?
Well, that was our minimum bid. I mean, that was.
Oh, it was, okay.
That was what we were given for, actually, the value was, again, because of the condition and the
Yeah.
damage to it and so forth, it was somewhat questionable, but that's certainly it meets our threshold anyway.
So the
Okay,
insurance claim, and that's all down the road, we're moving on, nothing,
That's all done.
okay, thank you.
we got our money on that.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that, okay.
Yeah,
Beth, did you want to say something on this?
they wouldn't total it, so.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to know what the starting bid was. I remember there was a starting bid. I couldn't think of the number. So thank you.
Okay. Okay, so do you need a motion on this, Walter?
Yes, please.
Do you want to state what motion you want, and then somebody will say so moved?
Sure, we just need a motion to accept the bid from Bow Auto Parts for the purchase of the 2007 Silverado 3500 and at the amount of $5,000 with a potential up to $6,000 depending on the condition of the rear axles.
Okay, so does anybody want to make that motion?
I will for,
I had
you
a
know,
question.
questions
I had a
later.
question.
Oh, well, hold on a second. If you have a question, let's go with the
Oh,
question
okay.
first.
Did this include anything like sander, plow, blah, anything? Okay, thank you.
Just the bear truck. Okay, okay. And then Tim, did you have a question or did you want to make the motion?
Well, yes, both.
Oh, okay, we'll go with your question first, so let's get that out of the
My
way.
question is, like, as is, you know, they'll come pick it up, and if we could somehow take our names off the door before it goes on anything that we sell, we need to take our names off, because just, I mean, a real quick past experience, I worked for Nottingham. 5 or 6 years later, they sold the pickup truck and it was running around town, and people realizing it was sold, but why is the town seal still on somebody else's town running around, you know? So we'll make sure we get everything taken off any vehicle we get rid of. But and that's just for the cabin chassis and the dump body. That's basically it, right, Chris?
Yep.
All the radios taken out of it, anything else. So, nope. So moved now.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
Second,
Second, and now discussion on the merits of it.
just comes with a real nice tree-shaped divot. You
Yeah.
know, that's a selling point.
Hey, we already got the bid. We don't need to continue selling.
I mean, now that Chris like went out and like found somebody, we did, there's no reason obviously to like reopen the bid for another month, you know, a couple weeks. So it is what it is. Let it go.
The bids,
Nope.
there was no bids, so this is,
Okay.
we're
Nope.
moving on. Okay, so if there's no further discussion, we'll put it to the vote. Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay,
All right, great, thank you. Thanks, Chris, for pulling that together.
yep.
No problem. Sorry about that. I apologize for cutting you off on that, but
No, we said previously we were going to try to work it in where we get to the folks, you know, like you earlier on in the meeting. So that was good you interrupted. Appreciate it.
it's fine. I'm still gonna hang out, but I'll be off anyways.
Okay.
So going back, I'm sorry, the sale of the tax deeded property, as we continue to work on getting ready to make some offerings on the tax deeded properties, it would be good to get an idea. I know in the past, things have been approached differently about how the sale might be controlled in terms of any type of minimum bids and what those minimum bids might be based on. Because obviously, you know, we're going to have to go through and do the math and kind of, you know, go back if we're looking at, you know, recouping property taxes, if we're looking at, you know, assessed value, et cetera, et cetera. So really just looking for some direction from the board as we go down the road for preparing.
Okay, so how would you like the feedback? Would you like us to send you some suggestions and then you consolidate them, or do you want to have an open discussion now? What's your preference, Walter?
Well, it would be good, you know, if we could basically have some type of consensus about how we should prepare, and what's been done. Yeah, again, not knowing what's been done in the past and so forth. You know, as we talked about before, I expect that this will probably flow out in a couple of different stages. In some cases, we'll be offering them a number of the properties to abutters, especially if they're non-conforming lots. And certainly in that particular case where we're going to require them to merge with their existing lot, you know, we're not going to get market value for them because they're not going to be at the same value once they merge them with their existing property. So if for those properties we're going to be looking at trying to recoup, you know, basically the losses that the town's experienced over the years from the taxes and some interest amount, then that we can calculate and put that in as a minimum. Or, you know, I don't think it's prudent to just take whatever you can get, because I think that's not fair to the other taxpayers. I think there should be some type of a threshold or some type of a minimum, so that I think that's appropriate for, you know, for the other taxpayers who've been kind of carrying the load for these lots over the years.
Be like a square foot price minimum, like a chart, or?
Well, that's what I was going to suggest, Tim. You know, Walter, I'm sorry, Matt, you go first.
Well, I was just gonna say, my initial thought was, I think we should focus on lot value as opposed to anything else, because so a good example is there's this one lot that's been vacant for decades down in the Harvey Lake neighborhood. The property card pre this last revaluation said it was worth something like $90,000. It was going to cost 20 to clean it off, and then once you merge it to the abutting lot, it increases their total value by $2,000. So it's not worth that even close. So I think if we looked at undeveloped land value, that would give us a real nice starting point.
Yeah, that's where I was starting to go, Matt. And I guess I was going to ask Walter how hard it would be to, let's just take that one as an example. List off, okay, we've got a half acre or a quarter acre or whatever. And normally let me say it this way. If you have a house lot that's 2 acres, the general number is, in round numbers, $100,000. If you now have 3 acres, it doesn't go to 150,000. It only goes to something like $2,000 or $3,000 more per additional acre. So Matt, just to confirm, you're saying that's the number you would maybe start with as the basis, provided that these folks are going to merge it back into theirs as opposed to just flip it.
For butters, yeah. And I would love to start there.
Yeah. So I guess, Walter, the question, let me just finish my question and then Pam will get to you. My question would be, if you have a quote buildable lot that's non-conforming, do we first need to think about selling it as a non-conforming lot, or can we just say it isn't being sold as a conforming lot, it's only being sold for merge?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think the best way to do it is to offer them in 2 stages. The first one being strictly a offer to abutters.
Okay.
And then if the abutters, aren't willing to either pay whatever the minimum is, or there's no abutters that are interested, then we would take it to the open market with the understanding that, it is a non-conforming lot, but it is subject to whatever current regulations are in place as far as zoning is concerned. And again, I didn't intend it to be something to work out something definitive tonight, but I just wanted to make sure that if we were able to go ahead and make some recommended minimum prices, that we wouldn't be wasting our time because the direction was going to be, okay, we want to get market value or so.
Okay, so Matt weighed in, then we'll go Pam, Beth, and Tim.
All right, my question was on minimum value and also giving the abutters an incentive. Like, since it was all recently reassessed, what if you went by to the abutters, the offer would be, say, 40% of assessed value with the merger contingent, and then if it was to go to open market, minimum bid being, say, 60% of market value or 50% of market value. To give the abutters the incentive of having that much down.
Walter, do you want to respond to that?
Again, it's certainly a concept. Again, not looking to finalize it tonight, but certainly a thought. Again, we're going to work out some numbers, and obviously I'll provide you what our recommendation is in terms of the process and that type of thing. But that's a good approach as well.
Okay, so what I'm hearing so far, just to recap, is I'm hearing at least a willingness to consider under market value, especially if it's for merge. Am I missing anything there? Okay, so then let's move on to Beth. You had some additional input. Oops, Beth, you're muted.
Okay. Thank you, Pam. I appreciate that. I mean, a little piece of land is not going to be worth the $90,000 that they're saying it's worth. You can't build on it. I'd rather have it go back, get some revenue from it. So hopefully people will want to scoop it up and make their yard a little bit bigger. Maybe put a garden there or something. So Walter, I guess my question is, is this something the town does by themselves, or do they get like an auctioneer, or is there like a company that does this? I see all the papers you give us, and I'm like, do you have time to do this too? So just wondering.
Well, I think we had talked about perhaps looking at some of the options that are out there. There are auctioneer companies that handle, municipal properties. I think if we're able to handle the abutter portion of it in-house, which I think is fairly easy with staff sending out the letters, that type of thing. I think once we have have those dealt with, if we can put a package together that would be attractive to an auctioneer, I think it's well worth investigating that option as well. Because you're right, it is a lot of work.
Sure it is. And I think a butter is something we probably can do. But thank you so much. I really appreciate this. This is something we've been hoping to happen for years and years. So thank you.
Just Beth, to your point, and then we'll get to Tim. Deerfield did do an auction just recently, and it went really well, really well. And I don't know if they did that preemptive process, but I think here amongst the board, Walter, you're hearing consensus to let the abutters have a shot at it first.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tim?
I always thought was, I know, we got to make money off the deal, but I always thought it was just like when we sell land back, or it was just for the back taxes and stuff. And
Well,
like I said, I know you said like about Deerfield. I know Selectman Alden Dill, I talked to him a while ago, and he said that was like the best thing they've ever done. And they would been waiting for a long time in Deerfield to do it. And the auctioneer come in and was astounding. But I don't know. I guess let's say your butters don't want it. It's obviously we like to get rid of all the land and get it back on the tax roll. That was the main purpose. But I just got to be careful where we're going to like set the bidding start. And is there any RSAs how we're supposed to be going about doing it? Or can we make up our own rules as we go? I'm just new to me.
The only, not necessarily as far as specifics. The town's already adopted the RSA that allows the select board to sell the property. It has to be sold, either by public sale, auction, or there's a statement in the statute that says, as justice may require, which is a little squishy, and a lot of attorneys don't like to play in that realm. But basically, it's got to be open in an open and bid situation in terms of the public having an opportunity to buy the land. As far as the proceeds are concerned, we're not allowed to retain the proceeds over and above what the town has lost in terms of taxes, interest, fees, etc. So we're going to have to try to determine what that is. And of course, when we do determine that, if we get more than that, then we have to try to find the previous owner and give that money to the previous owner, or we have to remand it to the court, and then the court decides what happens to it. So that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, and I think you might remember there was some properties in that latter realm where there's a good possibility you might get more than what just the back taxes are, and you've got relatives, where they might, have a right to that additional money or the house. So those will get more difficult to deal with, but we need to get them all taken care of, in my mind. Even if they're more difficult, we still need to work our way through them. We can't keep holding on to these properties. We can't keep worrying about maintaining them or there being problems with them. So, Walter, like Beth said, appreciate you just pushing your way through this, because we need to do it.
Okay, I think that helps. Gives me some good guidance to move forward. Thank you. And just the last thing on my list was the Lamprey River Advisory Committee representative. Ann Scholes has resigned from the committee, and so help is needed in identifying actually up to 4 individuals to represent the town of Northwood on that committee. So not looking for an answer tonight, obviously, but if there's recommendations that we can make, they do the appointments. But if we can make the recommendations, then that's something that we certainly, if we want to have representation on that committee, then we should make those recommendations. Because right now we have none.
Yeah.
Ann was the only one.
Well, let's see if we can't all think about that and pass some on to Walter. Beth?
Is it something we could put on the webpage that we're looking for someone
Good
who's
point.
interested?
Do you know like when they meet or how many times? What's the commitment or, just for two minutes?
I honestly don't know, Tim.
Okay.
Why don't, I mean, to Beth's point, why don't we post it with all that information, including the application requirements and stuff? And then we can also beat the bushes ourselves. It would be good to have representation.
Okay, I'll follow up on that, and I'll reach out to Ann too and see.
Yeah, I mean, she might have somebody that she recommends too.
Yeah.
I believe she's the same one that was on the Pleasant Lake projects. And so they have a fairly active group. She might have some recommendations.
Thank you for her time and effort. That was, obviously it's a cause.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
The only other thing I have is that I'd received a request for a copy of the audit letter from Linda to distribute to the members of the budget committee. It's not something that we necessarily publish, but it's really up to the board because the letter was addressed to the board and I didn't feel comfortable just doing it without your permission, but it is a public document and it's something that I just wanted to run it by you before I released it because it is addressed to the board.
Okay, so just to refresh everybody's memory, this is not the audit report itself, but the management letter, which could include things like, deficiencies or things where maybe things weren't kept up the way they should. And there's obviously some concern about that you might be affecting somebody's reputation if you release it. On the flip side, for every year that I've been on the board and also been in town, because I've gone back through the annual reports, we have released both the audit and the management letter. And really, realistically speaking, somebody could request it via 91A. And so we'd just be making them go through extra effort. And I don't think it's worth it. So my position is we've done it. They can get it one way or the other. Why make it difficult? So, Walter, do you need a motion or just a nod of heads?
Just that's by consensus again, just really looking for permission.
Does anybody disagree? Okay, so that's taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good.
And Mr. Chairman,
Oh, sorry, Pam, go ahead.
thank you. Before Walter steps away from his report, I feel duty bound to readdress the light bar. Just indulge me for 1 second. I reviewed through and looking at the wording to make sure we're perfectly clear on this. The question of barter, and also with respect for Beth and Tim, standing in opposition, I feel like it's something that I want to just have clarity on, that maybe they are seeing something that I am not seeing, that we are missing. So I'm looking at Mr. Bilodeau's letter from March 12th, 2021. I think you all have it in the packet. It comes right after the other estimates for light bars. And I just want to make sure that we're all reading this correctly. He says the light bar is new. It's never been installed. I have the bar in stock. The manufactured suggested retail is $8,411. My cost for the bar is $67.28. I will also professionally install said light bar into the command vehicle, including wiring to the existing control panel and the town specifications. I'm experienced, yada, yada, yada. So I'm just concerned here that when we voted as it was barter, that he was going to supply the light bar and install it. Am I reading his letter to say that he's thinking of installation as in-kind trade for the vehicle and that he still plans on charging us his cost for the light bar? I just want clarification.
You've already voted on it, so it's done. That's fine. I'd like to know where the old light bar is.
I'm doing it as a courtesy.
No, I appreciate that, but these are the.
Make sure. So don't argue. I just want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly, that it is a barter situation for the light bar and the installation.
Walter's nodding yes.
Okay,
Mark-
thank you.
Mark,
Thank you for indulging.
Thank you, Pam.
Mark has his hand raised.
Good to make sure, I mean,
But
And-
Mark's here, so if he could answer.
well, Walter did, but you want Walter to say it too?
Well, I didn't hear Mark say it. Mark's here, and it's his letter and his, so he would be the one that understands what this guy's offering. Can Chief confirm that it is full barter, bar, and the installation?
Mark?
That is correct. That is correct.
Thank you.
And we still have the old light bar, which we plan on recycling for other apparatus.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you. That puts my mind at ease, and I also just felt that as my compatriots had such a point, that maybe I should reassess and make sure I'm correct.
Not a problem. And, you know, quite frankly, anybody on the board has the right to bring up for reconsideration any of the votes that we take. You have to be in the affirmative, but and you were, so if you know, in this case, it was fine. And there's nothing bad about making sure, dotting the i's and crossing the t's.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Beth? Yeah.
Yep. I had to do it. Just a question, Mark, recycling it for what? Is there something else that we need to get? I mean, like, just wondering. Because if you said a boat, I understand we have such, like, I think we should have that kind of stuff, but just curious.
So we have a couple of things we could do. We could install it on our new to us forestry. Also, engine 3 is an old, pretty inefficient light bar. So one of the thoughts was taking the LED components out of the old light bar and putting them in the really old light bar on engine 3, and that making an LED light bar, which is much more efficient and brighter and so forth. So we have a couple of options.
Okay, so we're not going to throw it away right away.
Thank you. I appreciate recycling it and putting it to good use.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to request a 3-minute recess. I need to get a glass of water or water, and I'll see you back here in 3 minutes, if you would, please. Well, let's see. Oh, we need Pam yet, and Tim.
I'm here, Hal.
Oh, okay. Just didn't see you.
I had camera off.
Yeah. Okay. And there's Tim.
Yeah, no, sorry. I just pick up acorns. My dog brings in acorns every night and you step on them, so it kind of gets a little old. Might have that tree guy cut an oak tree down my backyard.
Yeah, there was bushels of them this year. Okay, so mowing bid
Fair enough.
results. Walter, do you want to walk us through that, please?
Yes, so as you know, we put the mowing both for cemeteries and the town properties out to bid. We received 3 bids for the project. I provided you with a bid tab, which has the total bids and a copy of the bid proposals. The low bidder was Hodgkins Painting and Maintenance for $19,500. The second low bidder was TNT Landscaping for $30,000. And the third bidder was La Valley Northern Services for $34,000. So I understand that Hodgkins has a quality reputation, has done the work before for the town, and I would recommend the board accept the proposal from Hodgkins Painting and Maintenance for the 2021 mowing bids and authorize me to prepare and sign the contract on behalf of the town.
So
Okay,
moved. Oh, sorry, Hal.
First off, does anybody have any questions on the bids? Okay, I do. Walter, what does the includes insurance or not includes insurance mean? What?
That's just a note about their package, their bid package.
Oh, whether they included their certificate.
Yes,
Oh, okay, fine.
sorry, I should have made that a little clearer.
Yeah, I know they're required to have insurance. This just means they didn't include the certificate in their bid package.
Right, which we asked for. So
But we
it's just
still have, okay.
technical
Okay.
thing.
So, Tim, did you make a motion?
Yes, so moved. Accept excuse me, Hodgkins Painting and Maintenance.
Okay.
Hope mowing's a part of that. No.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second, and now discussion.
We're all set with his payment schedule of the 7 lump sum. That's obviously works.
That's great for us and works for him. That was what he requested, so.
Okay, nope.
I think that's easier. I think that's easier. Beth?
And these are for the same pieces of property that we typically have mowed?
All the ones that were in our RFP, yes, yep,
Thank-
and the cemeteries.
Okay.
Okay, I guess not necessarily related to the acceptance of the bid, Walter, but are we clear on what the distribution of the cost between the town and the cemeteries is?
Yes,
Okay, so when we get the bills on that periodic basis, we'll be able to split the costs correctly?
yes. We'll
Okay,
square
good.
that up at the end of the year.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions, discussion? Hearing none. Beth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Battery
Sorry.
power.
We, just in case people are listening on the phone, we want to make sure.
No,
it's-
I think my mouse is dying.
Pam
Yes.
and Matt.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, that's the mowing. Now the cable franchise agreement renewal ascertainment period. Walter, you're going to have to do some explanation on this. I read it and I don't quite grasp it.
Okay, so as I mentioned at the last meeting, our contract with Atlantic Broadband expires in 2023. There's a process by which we go forward and enter negotiations on the franchise agreement, et cetera. And it typically starts a couple of years ahead of time because it does have a number of
Right.
milestones in it that takes time. So, so at this point in time, I provided you with a copy of a letter that our council provided us to send back acknowledging their notice to us that we would be prepared to negotiate with them and that we would be working with a consortium of other communities to negotiate the agreement and that we would be starting our ascertainment period in the near future. So part of the negotiations is we have an opportunity to solicit the users, subscribers' input regarding their experience with Atlantic Broadband. So what we're doing is we're ascertaining their comments is what the term is related to. And so with your approval, we will publicize through our website and Facebook and any way possible that the board is now accepting comments regarding the cable TV service in the town of Northwood. It's not the internet and it's not the phone. It's simply the cable TV because that's the only thing that's controlled and regulated under the franchise agreement. So through mid-July, we will take comments and we'll assemble those comments, and those comments will be brought to the table when we negotiate with Atlantic Broadband for things that we may want to include in the new franchise agreement for 2023. So
Okay.
that's pretty much the process the step in the process at this point.
Okay, so then Walter, I guess where I was confused was there was towards the very end, yeah, actually 216 of 216, there was some statistics there on calls and things like that. That was just for information. We're going to be soliciting additional comments from the town folk.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, that explains them, for at least me. I'll open it up for other questions. How about you, Matt?
So I think there is a lot of potential misinformation out amongst the community in terms of what the franchise agreement means or doesn't mean in terms of cable providers. So can you actually, I think the biggest question that the people have is, does our franchise agreement with Atlantic Broadband preclude other companies from coming into this community?
No, this is not an exclusive. This is not an exclusive agreement. If another company wanted to come in, which is what's happening in some of our other communities in the state, Guilford and Laconia, If those companies wanted to come in, they would approach the town, approach the board, propose an agreement very similar to this. And it would be up to the board, obviously, to decide whether they wanted to grant the franchise agreement or not. But it's not exclusive to Atlantic Broadband.
I just want to make sure that was part of the public record. So for anyone who thinks we have a sweetheart deal with this particular provider going, like we don't, you know, I mean, we have an agreement in place because we should have an agreement in place, but it's not like it's to the detriment of other companies. We're not beating other people away with a stick who want to run cable lines.
Unfortunately not.
No.
Competition would be good. So, you know, again, the focus, again, of this process and the comments that, you know, subscribers will be submitting, again, really just has to be on the, as it states, the video programming quality, the reliability, the availability, the customer service, the local access channel. We can't negotiate, as I mentioned, the internet or phone service. We can't negotiate what channels we get and don't get. Those are all regulated outside of the cable franchise agreement through the FCC and other entities that regulate those particular communication pieces. So,
Walter, a question.
yes.
Can we negotiate how much they give a kickback to us in the good sense?
Absolutely. Up to 5%. 0 to 5% is a franchise fee. You know, it's good news, bad news, obviously, because all they do is pass that on to the ratepayer.
Yeah. So we're in that with the other towns, though. So whatever the consensus of the other towns and us are is what we negotiate towards.
Well, again, we will end up at the end of the day with our own contract. So if we want to negotiate something different than the other towns want in terms of the franchise fees or some other particular Northwood item, we certainly are free to do that in this consortium. Basically, the consortium is going to negotiate the boilerplate agreement. So.
Wow. Okay, so that was not clear to me. I did not recognize that.
Yes.
So then can we ask the public to weigh in on what they think the franchise fee should be?
Absolutely.
Let's include that. If you're going to put it on the website, let's include that as one of the considerations that we'd like feedback on.
Yep, we can certainly do that.
Beth?
What's the franchise fee now?
Good question. I'd have to look at the agreement. I think it's 5%, but I'm not positive.
Just because if we're going to ask people, we probably should say it is currently. You know.
Right.
Yeah, and how do you feel about that? The maximum's this, you know, do you think it should be? Yeah, I think you're right. Anybody else want to comment or provide input? Okay, if not, then I guess that wraps up this topic, Walter.
Yes, yep, it's just getting the acknowledgement from the board that we're starting this process. We have to get it done within a certain time frame, so it's
Right.
time to move forward with it now.
Okay, good. Okay, well then how about we move on to the Conservation Commission appointment, and that's for Steve Hempel. Do you want to go over that, Walter, or should I?
It's simply, you know, a request came through from the land use specialist to bring before the board. Steve has expressed an interest in continuing to serve as a member of the Conservation Commission, and they're recommending a reappointment for a 3-year term to the end of March of 2024.
Okay, I'll just say that I know Steve has been on the committee for quite a while, and he's been vice chair, if not chair, a couple times. So he does a good job, so I'd recommend him. Does anybody want to make a motion to reappoint him?
I'll move to reappoint Steve Hampel to the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term ending March 2024.
Great, thank you, Matt. Tim seconded. Okay, and I guess now I should have added my discussion at this point. Sorry. Does anybody want to add anything else? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote for Steve Hempel onto the Conservation Commission. Tim,
Yes, thank you.
Pam,
Yes?
Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay, so that's that item. And now we have a resignation. Pat Durham is resigning from the supervisor of the checklists. And I'll just say she has served numerous terms, and it was always nice to see her there at the elections, chat with her and stuff. And so it's, for me personally, it's going to be a little bit different if she's not there next time. So I really appreciated what she did for the town and as moderator when I was moderator. So I'll just personally thank her, and I'm sure the town feels the same way. So could I have a motion to accept her resignation with regrets, please? Thank
So
you,
moved.
Ben. Do we have a second on that?
Second?
Second, okay. Any discussion?
Oh, thank you, Pat, for your years of service.
Yeah, she really did a lot. So Pam, how do you
And
vote?
we have other ways she can volunteer. Like, for instance, Pat, would you like to be on?
I think we're going to have a little discussion about later. So Pam, actually, Walter, do we need to even vote on this, or is it just by nod of heads?
It's just acknowledgement.
Yeah, okay, so we'll acknowledge it then. Thank you. Everybody's a thumbs up. Okay, good.
I do want to note that this vacancy is filled by the remaining supervisors of the checklist under statute.
Yeah. Okay, good point, Walter.
Tell her we didn't accept the resignation. She's still on.
Yeah, but she might not show up. So, okay. Next up is the task manager. I don't necessarily feel it's necessary for Walter to go through all the items, but I did ask him to include it, pretty much every meeting, so that if anybody on the board has questions or concerns about what progress we're making or what items are on the task manager, this is the chance to bring it up. Certainly some of the items that we talked about during the meeting are on there, but this is a chance to maybe touch on or ask questions on any of the others that are there. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up, or anything that you think maybe we need to adjust the priorities on, for example? Okay, if not, then we'll move on.
I did want to, excuse me, Al. I just wanted to note the new addition that I added, which is a follow-up to a conversation we've had about reviewing and discussing committee charges and missions and so forth over the next couple of months, just to refresh everybody and see if they need to be adjusted, see if they need to be clarified, so on and so forth. And I've had a chance to work a little bit with the chair of the Facilities and Highway Committee and provided some feedback on that. And so, yeah, I think that's something that's worth, taking a look at and seeing if they're still accurate, appropriate, clear enough, et cetera. So, so that's been added, and that's something that hopefully we'll get through a little bit at a time over the next couple of months.
Walter, the other thing that was discussed, and I realize it's not exactly quite the same thing, but Matt mentioned Organization Day, when we as the select board think about who's going to support these different committees and things like that. And I believe it was you that mentioned that in some other towns they have a quote committee organizational day, where it's actually a day, to bring the committee members in, thank them for their service, maybe have a little feed or whatever for treats to keep them.
Ice cream.
Yeah, refreshments. There you go. But also then to go over, how do committees work? What are 91A requirements and all that type of stuff. So I'll just throw it out there that that's something Walter talked about, and maybe we want to consider after the election. Beth?
My first year, we did do that. Kate LaFawn was the
Oh.
TA, and she had Primex come in, and they did a workshop for all the committee people.
That's a great idea.
It was really good. And they said that they had like a whole list of different, workshops they could do. So
That's great.
they'll do for free.
Yeah. Well, actually, now that you say that, Primex was one of the people on my list in terms of who might present, but if they actually helped run the thing, that'd be great. Okay, so that's something to think about, Walter.
Yeah, I've worked with them before, and it was we referred to it as a conference of committees, which basically involved a Saturday morning, and it was an opportunity, as you say, for the select board to extend their appreciation, and also gave an opportunity for the select board to talk a bit about their goals and mission for the coming year as well, and see how that kind of resonated with the different committees and so forth, so they knew how or what direction the select board would be looking to move forward and so forth. So obviously this year it's a little challenging because town meeting is going to be so late. It's something that would be appropriate to do in the spring after elections are over, and if board changes or committee members have changed, then it's a good time to get those people, because many of them may be unfamiliar with some of the guidelines and things like the right to know and that type of thing. And certainly Primex can come in and provide some great guidance on something like that as well. So I think it's definitely something to consider putting on the radar. If we don't get a chance, we're going to be bumping right up against the summertime this year, but it might be something we can look at for the fall and then put it on the definite schedule for next spring.
Okay, just is there general consensus that we would be interested in doing this? I mean, do folks feel comfortable with that? Okay, so Walter, I think you mentioned the timing. We'll leave it up to you to recommend a time and help us work towards that. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. What'd you call it? The Conference of Committees?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Sounds very fancy.
Yeah, Beth, we could probably give everybody flags to carry and stuff, just like the Olympics.
When we did have this meeting, granted it was almost 3 years ago, everyone, like, you weren't with your committee, you had to split up. So like one member, from each committee at a table. So you met everybody and we all discussed things, and everyone said it was a great idea. And we talked about doing it, twice a year or quarterly. So I think the committees will really welcome this as well. So thank you.
Okay, so great. Thank you, Walter. Okay, since we're talking about committees, we're going to move on to committee reports. I know Matt emailed me. He has an item that he wants to go over.
Sure, I'll go first, reporting with recreation. So quick, just a brief report. We've been busy. Rec Commission ran, in the absence of a rec director, the commission ran an Easter egg hunt a couple of weeks ago. Went really, really well. Rather than having our standard activity where everybody came to a single location and climbed all over each other looking for eggs, we spread it out across town to 10 different recreation amenities and facilities across town. So boat launches, fields, different recreation outdoor areas. People loved it, and everybody stopped and looked for eggs at each one of those little spots. We got some great feedback from it. We're running spring soccer, and our league coordinator is taking point on that. It would appear that people are really looking for stuff to do. We've got about 120 kids signed up for spring soccer. Considering it's not even the season we're supposed to be playing soccer, that's an impressive number. It's going to be very recreational, just staying in-house, not playing other towns. It's going to be, show up, practice once a week, show up, split teams, and have a good time by age level. Also planning a fishing derby coming up on Mother's Day weekend, I believe. We're going to do that in partnership with Saddleback Campground again, where we've held that in the past. And they've been really generous with their space, and we'll be fishing for some stocked trout in that pond. So that's where we're at there. One of the things that I did want to bring up for action, if you'll indulge me, is so we're now running sports at the upper field 6 days a week. And to aid people coming and going, as well as accessing the Guptal trails, using the pavilion and stuff, the commission is recommending that we stop gating that access road. So I actually reached out to the police chief this week, and informed him that the rec commission was suggesting we no longer keep that gate up, and he asked us to post it as open dawn to dusk, so that if people are up there after hours just hanging out, causing trouble, etc., he's got some grounds to ask them to move along. So what I would actually love to see is if we could make a motion to officially post that entire rec facility, so the 2 lower fields, that parking lot, and the upper area as dawn to dusk. Obviously we've got the ability to provide for use outside of those hours for special events like trunk or treat or whatever, but generally that's what the chief is asking for.
Okay, so is that your motion, Matt?
So I'd like to make a motion to post the entire Route 4 recreation fields, and officially known as Bailey Fields, as open dawn to dusk.
Okay, do we have a second on that? Okay, we have 2 seconds. Okay, that's good. I'll now open it up for discussion. How do people feel about that? Tim, you want to say something?
Just going back to the Bailey Fields, I've had a couple of people call me. I know Mr. Bailey, did everything in town, and somebody said for emergency purposes, because they call them the Robert E. Bailey Sports Complex up to Cobrown already. I know we voted on it, and I should have realized it back then, but now we're naming these Bailey Fields. People know Bailey, if an ambulance come to Bailey Field, people know, or something like that. It's 2 different things in town now. So it's just something to keep aware of, or something we could, I don't know. I don't want, change it, but it's just something to keep in mind.
We need to give folks instructions to be explicit.
So I know they say Route 4. Well, technically Cobrown is on Route 4, First Hampton Turnpike, but it just
What's the actual official name? Is it like Bailey Recreational Field or?
Cobrown is.
No, I mean the new Bailey Field, Matt. Is it just called Bailey?
I think it's just Bailey Fields. So maybe what we
can name it Bailey Road. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying something.
Yeah, I can follow up with Mark and Glenn if we want to not have to worry about it now, and we can figure out from a public safety perspective what makes sense.
But I'm all for it to dusk the dawn. I'm sorry not to get off the subject, Matt. So
that's what I was going to say. So how about we vote on this, and then Matt, if you could follow up as to how best the chief and others feel we should handle that, maybe Mark also, then we can. If you can't deal with it directly within the purview of the rec department, then you can bring it back up. But
sure.
For this discussion, is there any further discussion regarding having it open dawn to dusk?
Can I just throw one more thing in there? So if it turns out that by having that access road open, if people are like driving onto the field and causing trouble, all we'll actually have to do is gate off the front part of that access road, because there's that ditch basically makes access onto the field almost impossible from the front side of it. So that would be pretty easily remedied if we need to.
Okay, good. Any further talk on this? Discussion, I should say. If not, Pam, how do you vote?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Okay, anything else, Matt?
Walter, since we don't have a rec director to run point on ordering those signs, can I task you or Chris with that?
I'm sure we can get those ordered, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Great. Are you all set, Matt?
Yep, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else want to add anything? Okay. If
I just want to say thank you to the rec commission. I did hear lots of great feedback from the Easter egg. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, very good.
I came by and said Easter egg hunt online. I'm thinking like online. How you gonna find Easter egg on the computer? But then I figured out the information's online. But
I heard mostly from people saying how they enjoyed actually going to the different places that Someone said they
Yeah.
lived here 30 years. They didn't even know where some of the places were. And I'm like, well, good. So it was
Get out and
nice.
see your town, yep.
Okay, well, I've got one for the planning board, just to give you a heads up. Mr. Daco's excavation project there on Route 4, which is in the back part of the property that you see when you're driving down Route 4, was approved by the planning board at the last meeting, so last Thursday. This also involves a lot of state permits and heavy duty state permitting and things. But it was also it was a 3-year process for them. And I think, the planning board and the conservation commission and everybody else that contributed to it really helped make it a good process and a good final answer. I think the town's interests are well protected. I think the environment is well protected. We've checked on things like, water and underwater flow, aquifers and things. So I think it's good for the town. And the other point I'd like to make is that Mr. Holden, the engineer representing Mr. Daco, said that he also felt that the process, albeit long, was very good. And he was very complimentary of our staff and Mr. Strobel, who ran herd on that process. So I think it was good all around. And as far as protection goes, there are going to be several different performance bonds that will be required as a result of the work that he's going to be doing, and those will come before us. So, for example, there's an access road to the back there, and if that doesn't get built and needs to be finished or mitigated, there'll be a performance bond for that. Similarly, if he's doing work out there and we need to mitigate reclaim, areas that he didn't reclaim for some reason, there'll be a performance bond for things like that. So those will all flow through us. And when they come through, my recommendation will be that we have our town engineer review them to make sure we have the right amount of money. And also, obviously Walter will take them through a legal review to make sure we're not missing anything. So that'll be coming up. It won't cost the town anything. All that's, at the applicant's expense, but we do need to process those. Any questions on that? Tim, did you have a question?
You're the representative of the planning board. You're always talking about, I know Mr. Daco's thing's been going on for a long time, and anything on our own with Joe's?
Yeah. The simple answer on that is it's been continued at the applicant's request. Primarily, if I'm just going to say the basis has up till this point always been that they would prefer to not have us act on it until we are meeting back together again in person. That doesn't mean that people cannot continue to provide information and feedback to the board. As a matter of fact, we just got another letter or two as public input just at the last meeting. So the process continues, but my expectation will be until things change in terms of meeting venue, they will just continue to seek continuances. Other questions? Okay, if not, I'm going to open it up for citizens forum. Oh, I'm sorry, Beth. I was looking down. I didn't see you.
It's okay. It's okay. So the Safety Facility Complex Advisory Committee, that was a mouthful. Did you guys get the little newspaper that came out the other day?
Yeah.
The Sun Cook Business. Okay, so Paul Tudor, who was our representative, is also on our committee. He got it in that, and then I know Elaine did a whole little blip, and Paul has put it on the town web page and the Facebook page. So thank you, Paul, for helping. So yeah, hopefully get the word out.
Yeah, I think it's good publicity. I think it was good. Good. So my apologies for not seeing you right away, Beth.
That's okay. I think I was muted for a second.
Okay, does anybody else have any reports they'd like to make at this time?
Do you have any more cameos from Walter coming up anytime soon that we're gonna know about? No movie offers or nothing?
Not at this time.
Yeah. Okay, well, in that case, I am now going to move on to Citizens Forum. Ginger, you're shaking your head no. Anybody else want to speak or address the board? I see Daniel's still online, but he's not opening up his camera. So, okay, at this point, I know we have some non-public items. So I'm going to ask, well, first off, let's discuss the logistics before I ask for the motion and we move into non-public. Walter, who do we need in non-public besides you?
Just me.
Just you. So can we turn control of the meeting from Paul to Matt, please?
Mhm.
And help me out on this. Once we do that, then
It's
we're
actually easier if we make the motion to enter non-public, then Paul knows how to turn everything off.
okay.
Then he'll give me control.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so do I have a motion to go into non-public? And Walter, is it for personnel?
It's for, excuse me, A and, B and C, hiring and confidential.
Oh, right. Oh, yes, of course. Yes. Yes. Okay, so it's going in for personnel and for confidential reasons. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Sure, so move.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
And roll call vote. Matt,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
and Hal is yes. Okay, so now at this point, Paul will give control to Matt, and then
Do you see us coming out to take any votes for the public? Are we all done for the night or?
Walter, what's your sense? I think we'll be all done for the night.
Yeah, depending on what the disposition is on the abatements that we're going to review.
Oh, those will ultimately become public.
Yes.
Okay, then there will definitely be some follow-on because I expect we'll take action.
Should I stay online then?
No, well, how do you want to handle it, Walter? I mean, can we just bring it back live with Matt?
So
Yeah.
I don't know how to turn on all the streaming and stuff like that. I don't have the password.
Oh, okay.
And I think this is probably important enough to warrant going back live. Personally.
Okay, so
We-
Paul, we're gonna have to
Put
have
him in the
him-
waiting room?
Yeah, can we do that?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's do
All right,
that.
Paul.
Maybe
No worries.
Walter can text him a couple minutes before we come out to get him
Okay,
pick up or something.
that sounds good. Okay, everybody else is going into the waiting room. So Paul, if you transfer over control, please.
I've got the power. I'm going to start dropping people into the waiting room. If you'd rather not hang out, by all means,
Drop off.
feel free to leave. Otherwise, you're going to look at a white square for a while.
Okay, and in the meantime, I'm just gonna run to the restroom quick. I'll be right back also.
Oh, I'm not the host yet. Never mind.
Yep, sorry, hang on. I'm
No.
trying
No,
to.
I just saw the words and thought it was me.